Hello and welcome to Off the Shelf Reviews.
I wish every Friday was a Friday.
And I'm Gary. And today we're going to review and discuss Friday, which came out in 1995, written by Ice Cube and DJ Pooh, and directed by F. Gary Gray. Ian, why don't you give us the synopsis?
Well, the story follows Ice Cube's character, Craig. He has just lost his job, and this Friday he has the day off. So his best friend Smokey has decided to come over and get him high, expand his mind. But certain events might play out, which ultimately may lead Craig to a certain decision.
I know you don't smoke weed. I know this. But I'm gonna get you high today. Cause it's Friday, you ain't got no job, and you ain't got shit to do.
So every now and then, a new comedy will come along
Yeah.
and pretty much help define a generation. It kind of becomes
Yeah.
one of those movies that sets the new example for the current age of comedy movies.
Yeah.
And Friday, without exception, is one of those movies. It has, by today's standards, become an absolute classic. And it also, I guess, is partly responsible for moving that hood genre of movies into the mainstream.
Yes, yeah.
We'd already had like Boys in the Hood and Menace to Society.
Yeah.
And Ice Cube really wanted to kind of deviate away from the representation of hood
Yeah.
or hood life in those movies and change that representation into a comedy and show maybe its lighter side.
Yeah.
And that being said, when they went into production to make this film, there was gang warfare breaking out around them between the Crips and the Bloods.
Yep, yep.
So much so that no character in this film wears even remotely anything that's coloured red.
No.
Because it would paint a big target on their backs and they probably could have been shot
Yeah.
whilst making the movie. So even though all of the horror of reality is going on around them, they decided that they're going to tone it down and make this a stoner comedy.
Yeah, this film is considered one of the earliest stoner comedies. I mean, I know we had the Cheech and Chong movies,
Yeah.
back in the early 80s, but I didn't see this film until early 2000, which is crazy because it'd already been out for 5 years. It garnered this kind of legacy of being a stoner comedy, starring Ice Cube with everything going on with the rap world at that
It was booming,
that
wasn't
time.
it?
Yeah, East Coast, West Coast kind of rivalries, and when I came to this film, like I had just entered into listening to hip hop myself. So I had gone through this massive phase of just listening to rock music and then one day going, "Oh, I want to listen to this." And then realizing that there was this whole history and culture and legacy behind it that I was like, wow, this is absolutely crazy. And you get to Friday, which it's about a guy smoking weed all day, or about a guy who hangs out with another guy who smokes weed all day. And this version that we watch for this review, I actually don't like. I love the original version, the TV version, the VHS version that I've got, and I even recently watched this film on Netflix when it was released on there. And there are none of the extra scenes that I saw in this version, which is the first time for me. The film starts off with just establishing this Friday morning, and the camera slowly pans down. Now, in the normal version, or the original TV version I saw, the camera just slowly pans down with the music playing, flows into Craig's bedroom, and he wakes up. In this one, we establish extra characters that we don't know yet.
Well, this version sets up the film more like an ensemble cast. Like, these are all of the characters that you're going to meet on this Friday on this street. Whereas, the original version just went, here we are, here's Craig, here's our central protagonist for the film. The story's about him.
Yeah.
Whereas, so I can understand there are the way that both films go into their intros. It does set them apart. But I honestly prefer seeing a quick snippet of all of these other people before we get to Craig. So I think I can see the difficulty there is there as an edit as to which version to go for, because they both do mean different things.
Well, the crazy thing is, I was thinking about this after I'd watched this version, that I was just like, okay, so in the original version, it just flows into Craig and it establishes Craig as your main character, and you then follow Craig throughout the day of his Friday and all the different people and interactions he'll have. In this one, it's now set me up that Craig is just part of these characters that all live around this neighborhood, and we're just going to, and I think I actually prefer the original one. The more focus on the character, and then I can relate to that character instead of. Not saying that it's terrible, because the rest of the film is just absolutely brilliant, but just establishing, like you said, we got Smokey, Chris Tucker, just waking up, rolling himself a joint and smoking himself back to sleep. We've all been there, really, haven't we? We've all been there. I love Chris Tucker. I know this gets a lot of hate sometimes, but I do love the Rush Hour movies. I do think they're a lot of fun. And this same year, 1995, he'd release Dead Presidents with Lawrence Tate, which I think is just it's another hood type movie, but doesn't stay too much in the hood. It goes to all these different places. We also have Debo, played by Tiny Zeus Lister. Great actor. No Holds Barred with Hulk Hogan.
Right.
Was the first time I ever saw this guy. And then he had a career in wrestling and WWF and WCW. The last major thing I saw him in, which I thought was a really great role, was The Dark Knight, where he plays one of the criminals on board and he throws the bomb out the window.
That's right, yeah.
And his character doesn't really have to do anything. He's menacing, he's scary. He's got the issue with his eye. So Debo just had this look. And you have Ezel stealing boxes at the beginning. Now, that's the major focal point of the movie, because once Craig wakes up and interacts with his family, we find out that he's been fired the day before for stealing boxes. But it wasn't him. And we're talking 95. This is kind of, I don't know if it was meant to be a joke or just a part of the situation, but obviously just being fired for stealing at work. And it wasn't you. It was probably the owner. It's probably an insurance job, but you're young, you're just working for, pittance, and they're just like, no, we're going to get rid of you. And then you listen to your dad and your mum.
Lecturing. Well, see, the mother seems to be a little bit more protective of him.
Yeah.
But the dad is no nonsense, not taking any shit from his son.
Yeah.
He's just like, no, boy, you spend today out there looking for a job. You ain't coming back home until you've got a job. And no, you're not getting no milk for that cereal. You're taking out the rubbish I told you to take out the night before.
I got to admit, when you're proud of your kitchen, no person pours that much cereal into a bowl and would leave my kitchen
the entire bowl of cereal.
Yeah, and then he's like, "There's no milk," and I'm like, well, how much milk are you going to use for that? This whole sequence as well with the dad was extended. It's crazy. It's easier delivered in small quantities. John Witherspoon giving this whole lecture to Craig about, you've lost your job. You've got to find a job. You've got to obviously start making some money. He has the same thing when he goes to the toilet, and we have the toilet humor where he's just taking a shit with his son in the room. Boy, I smell your shit for 22 years. You can smell mine for 5 minutes. I just love it. But in this extended version, it felt more of a lecture.
Sure.
Where in the original version, it just felt like, dad jokes.
Yeah.
Now, he really tried to, and I know it's just kind of filler to kind of fill an extra few minutes.
For me, it established the entire family. We got a good sense of who they were. His antagonistic relationship with his sister.
Yeah.
His mum getting ready to go to work. Dad's getting ready to go onto his dog catching business. And it's just it was just really nice. It was just I thought they spent enough time with each character to give you a sense of who they are before he sat out on his front porch.
Don't nobody go in the bathroom for about 45 minutes. Somebody open the window.
That's primarily where the film now starts, is with them sat out the front.
Because this film doesn't really explore many territories. This film just explores this street.
Yeah.
And just a couple of the houses.
What I always felt was really nice is, it was written by Ice Cube and DJ Pooh, and DJ Pooh plays the character Red in the movie. And the fact that this, that's probably what they did in real life. They just sat on their porch talking about stuff on their days off, sitting there smoking weed. And so it felt more realistic. Once we meet up with Chris Tucker, You know, and Chris Tucker's trying to be streetwise, and Chris Tucker's not streetwise. When he has his confrontation with Big Worm, or Big Perm, you know, played by Faison Love, and sometimes that's where the tone can kind of get a bit lost. Like, you've got this comedy tone, even when Big Worm drives up, and he's got the music, you know, the funky ass music playing, but then he pulls a gun on his lap, and he's like, "You're fucking with my emotions, Smokey." You're like, he's going to kill you if you're messing with his money. And you are blatantly messing with his money, Smokey.
Right. Well, Smokey's obviously taking the weed, smoking it, not selling it, and he's constantly just like, "Yeah, I'll get you that money later."
Yeah, yeah. And like, we have the small interactions as well. Like, they go back to Smokey's house because they have to wait for Craig's mum to leave. And so, you know, he sits in his bedroom and just smokes a load of weed there. And then it's just a case of his mum saying, "Right, I need you to go to the store." So now we're driving to the store, music playing. The music in this film as well, I think, is pretty iconic for the time.
Oh, hell yeah.
You know, a lot of Cypress Hill, a lot of Dr. Dre. And when you're at the store, I wasn't too sure about the Asian joke.
Yeah, well, I mean, this film was released in the 90s.
Yeah.
So a lot of those sort of jokes were, you know...
I was thinking that while I was watching this at this time, like, we're in 2021 now, and I'm watching Friday from 1995. I love it. I think it's highly enjoyable. But then I'm looking at some of the jokes, and I'm questioning those jokes. Like, they worked then, I understand. They don't work now, kind of, in certain situations.
Well, it's because most of the time you react to it, and, like, you think you might think it's funny, you might not think it's funny, but the biggest takeaway from seeing scenes like that today is you go, "Oh, that's definitely not going to fly today."
Yeah,
that's the overriding thought that we have when we see those sequences now.
Well, I was thinking the same thing with the language in the film as well. Like, you know, the use of the N-word is very prominent in Friday, but I don't really get offended by it like that, simply because that's how the script was written.
Yeah.
That's how the actors agreed to obviously write it, and that's actually what made the realism feel more realistic, because I could understand that characters like Smokey and Craig, you know, would sit there talking like that, you know, where they are, just to be able to feel more friendly to each other. But it's like when they come back after the shops and you see Miss Parker watering her garden. Now, we said the jokes and we know the language, and Miss Parker sure as hell knows what she was doing when she put those shorts on.
Was that in slow motion? I don't know. Can we check that again? Was that in slow motion?
Was that in slow motion? And the boys are obviously, you know, I love the fact that the boys are having fun, you know, viewing her, and she's showing it off, I should say. But then you have the interaction with the mum, and Craig's mum's just like, "What's that woman wearing?" And they have this whole interaction, and she's like, "Okay,
I'm off to work now. Call me when you get home." Okay.
which those kind of jokes I can relate to, because, you know, being in realistic situations where girls will talk, but they don't really want to talk.
Yeah.
You know,
it's just a front.
Yeah.
Look at her. Now she gonna be ashamed of herself coming out looking like that. Hey, girl.
Hey, how you doing?
Fine. I'm on my way to work.
Well, call me when you get home.
Okay.
Well, just two bits of trivia for you and go back to some of the things you were saying.
Yeah.
Back in that store, it was a director cameo there. He was
Yes.
actually the guy with the mop.
Yeah.
But one other thing, going back to what we were talking about earlier, about the way the film's set up, Craig on his own versus the ensemble, was that this film, you know, they admitted, has very much been inspired by Kevin Smith's Clerks.
Yes.
Which is almost
Yes.
a day in the life of, you know, very singular location.
Yeah.
Stoner comedy.
Yeah.
And it was basically just about the conversation. And so starting the film with just Craig feels very much also like Clerks, where instead of it showing you all the characters
Yeah.
at the beginning of Clerks instead of just him going into the store to begin with.
See, I love that kind of mixing of those two, because I always found like Clerks was lost among Kevin Smith's work, mainly because of Jay and Silent Bob, who are the stoners of the movie. But in fairness, in Clerks, they don't really smoke like that. And the same thing with Friday. Yes, we do follow Smokey, who is smoking, but the story, I feel, follows mainly Craig.
Yeah.
And Craig's interactions with all these things. Like we know Smokey is smoking up all this bud to himself. And getting Craig involved with Big Worm, shows Craig's loyalty to Smokey. Like, he's his friend. Like, yes, he's got me in this trouble, but I'm going to help him. And we've already seen the fact he's got a gun.
Yeah.
That Craig's willing on defending himself.
Well, we have that sequence a bit later on where he turns up in the ice cream van. I'm just like, this is Big Worm, who of course he now calls Big Perm, because you can't get away from that giant hair.
Oh, that's brilliant.
And you got all the kids asking for their ice cream. And I was like, so is he running a legitimate ice cream business,
No,
or is
it's
this
a
his
front.
weed front? Exactly.
Yeah, it's a weed front. He probably hides it in the bottom of the cone and then puts the ice cream on top and sends it out.
And so he pretty much says to them, like, 10 o'clock tonight, if you ain't got my money, you're dead.
Yeah.
I'm going to kill him too.
And this is the crazy thing, because this is, from the film's perspective, this is Craig's first time smoking weed.
Well, I was about to say, he has the first time ever smoking it with Smokey, who's just like, he delivers that immortal line that opens the film.
Yeah. And the two of them, the two of them have had this fun interaction, but then the paranoia has kicked in, which I think the film delivered quite well to say, like, look, you smoking weed's fun, but you will get paranoid if you're in a paranoid situation.
I can hear my heartbeat. Can you hear my heartbeat? It's going too fast.
The phone ringing?
You hear my phone ring?
Man, hell no!
And then when you've had that whole confrontation with Big Worm, Craig is just like, hey, I smoked one little kind of tiny joint and now you've got me in trouble for like $200. Which kind of shows as well Smokey's need for Craig to help him out in all the situations. With the fact that then from the rest of this afternoon, we're leading up to 10 o'clock. And I totally forgot how much time we montage out in the on the porch. His sister comes home from school and we get some crazy interactions with her and the Debbie character played by Nia Long. Debbie is the local girl, who Craig kind of fancies, even though he's got a girlfriend, Joy.
Who does at one point ring him.
Yes.
And she's complaining
She's ringing
to
the
him.
house all the time.
Yeah, because she's accusing him of cheating on her.
Yeah.
At the same time, she's got two dudes in her bed, passed out.
Oh shit! I didn't even see that.
Yeah.
Oh
It's
shit!
like, what?
Wow, I didn't. And he tries to even get his girlfriend to like help him get some money, but she confronts him when he's there with Debbie, so she can completely.
This
flies
other,
off
yeah,
the
that girl
handle.
turns up and she's just like, "No, you didn't take a man, money."
Oh god! And then on top of that, you've got Debbie's sister Felicia. The Bar Felicia line is very iconic for Friday as well.
This film has become something of like a meme factory, though.
Oh,
Isn't
totally,
it?
yeah,
'Cause
yeah.
You've got that part where they both go, "Damn!"
To Red's eye. Man, you just have to look at Debo. Somebody says Debo coming, everybody starts hiding their shit.
Yeah,
because you're gonna get robbed. And it was something that made me laugh when I watched Straight Outta Compton. Was the sequence with Ice Cube in that movie when he's reading the Friday script, and he's already used the "Bye Felicia" line in the movie.
Yes.
At a concert, which I was like,
Yeah.
I got ya.
Yeah.
Craig.
Bye, Felicia.
Well, here's another meme moment from the film as well.
Yeah.
Is when when the guy comes up and he's just like, "Hey, you've got my bike. I want my bike back." And he just faces off with him and he's like, "You want your bike back, do you?" And he turns
don't you come
around
around?
and sucker punches him. And like I said, this film it's comedy. It's a cartoon.
Yeah.
So you get this ridiculous shot of him flying overhead of the camera, collapsing in the ground, and then of course Chris Tucker giving those immortal lines.
You got knocked the fuck out!
Man, it's such classic. I like the way that the movie transitioned nicely into a flashback by just making it black and white.
Yeah.
It's just like, we're just going to make it black and white to make you feel like this is in the past. And it works. In the flow of the movie, it happens a couple of times, especially when Smokey has revealed he smoked with Hector and they put angel dust, which is, some pretty hardcore shit. And he finds himself sat in the pigeon coop.
Yeah.
So
He's
now
got that twitch. So when he's sat there every so often, his right shoulder will just start twitching.
Which is not a good sign. We shouldn't laugh. We shouldn't laugh. This is heavy duty, serious stuff. But like I said, the afternoon flows with Craig, trying to get with Debbie. Smokey hooking up with this girl called Rita, who doesn't look anything like Janet Jackson. No. And then the mum and dad comes back, and it starts to loom close to 10 o'clock, and the movie takes this tone of like, this is some serious shit now. So when they come out of the front of the house and they see the van coming and immediately shout, "Drive by," and you see this car come driving down. It's like I believe it. Like, you know, I think I've grown enough in my time to understand that yes, people will drive past your house in a van and pull out Tech Nines and just unload at your house if they've got a serious problem with you and their business. But you do have that moment where the boys, obviously taking the comedy route with the movie, the boys don't get hit and they manage to escape. But you got him on the roof.
Yeah.
Ba-bang, ba-bang, yeah, ba-bang.
Well, I mean, I have two issues. I mean, it's a comedy.
Yeah,
I know.
yeah.
Well, I'm just going to nitpick anyway.
Yeah.
It's like they know that they're going to be in trouble at 10 o'clock. So why are they standing out at the front of the house ready for the drive-by to turn up?
He was walking Smokey home at that point.
So they were just like, oh, it's 10 o'clock. I guess it's time to just go home now.
Yeah, yeah.
And I was like, he's got a gun. How much is he going to get at the pawn shop for that? Pretty sure he could probably get the money that he's been asking everyone for if he just sold his gun.
But
I was just like, it's
Craig
fine.
shouldn't be having to pay for the problem. It's Smokey's
Well, it is
problem.
his problem now,
I
though,
know. But
Just thinking.
yeah, I mean, it's not John Wick, is it? He manages.
Well,
they
no,
manage
they
to
end up getting
escape.
shot at, and there's bullets spraying everywhere, and yeah, they run, and they end up jumping and hiding in the back of a pickup.
Chris Tucker does make me laugh at this point. Mama, mama.
Shut up, man. Her fat ass can't do nothing.
But while this is all happening, you know, they've managed to run off and hide, and the local neighborhood characters have all grouped together outside the house asking where Craig and Smokey are. And Debbie confronts Debo with her sister's face. Now, earlier in the movie, Debo and Smokey had broken into a house, stolen some money, and, you know, Debo, being over at Debbie's house, believes that her sister has gone through his pants, and so he's beaten her up. And he slaps Debbie across the face. You know, and, you know, harshness of life and all that, but, you know, you can get shot at and blown up. But when a huge man hits a woman, you kind of have to jump in and do something.
I was kind of like...
Moral compass. And all that.
Oh, absolutely. Because at this point in time, this character has kind of just been a comical character.
Yeah.
You know, especially when, like, the Jaws type music plays, when he's cycling around this neighborhood.
He's scary, man.
Yeah, I know, he's a shark.
Yeah.
You know, but it's the fact that he's also cycling around on a bicycle. But then he has this presence, this force that can't be reckoned with. And so you're just like, yeah, he's kind of funny, he's kind of goofy, it's a cartoon trope. But yeah, when he backhands the woman, you're just like... It's all off, like, you know, this guy needs to be taken care of now. He is the town bully, and everyone has just accepted it, and no one is standing up to him, except her.
And now Craig, because obviously Craig's got a thing for Debbie, and they have this fight in the middle of the street. It's completely one-sided. Tiny Zeus Lister is, you know, is a badass. But when Craig pulls the gun, you know, like I said, I much prefer in the original TV version because of the grittiness and the kind of raw, relatable feel it had to the Craig's character. When he pulls the gun and he fires, you have the flashback to when his dad had spoken to him earlier in the movie about the gun and saying, look, you don't need a gun. You know, put up your fist. That's what makes you a man. And you like that. Like, everybody should really like that father-son message lesson because it's just easy, relatable. Anybody can shoot each other. So when it flashes back to present day and he hasn't fired, like, it can throw you off a little bit. But then he puts the gun down and they have this fight. And I'm pretty sure Craig loses at one point being choked out. But then he picks up a brick and he smashes Debo in the face. And I'm like, that'll do it.
Yeah, that'll pretty much do it.
That'll do it. And a couple of times and he takes Debo out. And then the movie just... In the normal version, this is where the movie would end. You know, Craig has confronted Debo. He's got the girl now. He's going to dump his girlfriend in a minute. Smokey has got the money back to pay off Big Worm. Ezel has stolen his shoes. You know, and everything is quite happy. But in the kind of extended version, you have this final speech between the dad and Craig in the toilet. And I just feel it's like it's not needed, you know, to extend not only the poop joke that we've already had once before in the movie. It's now explaining to us that Craig's supervisor has called him and he can get his job back. Yay!
Probably because they heard about how he managed to, clean up the town and take care of the bully. And
Yeah.
they were like, oh, we'll bring him back.
Or they realised they couldn't fire a guy on the fact they could only see the back of his head.
Right.
Legally.
I guess it was just a way for the film to try and wrap things up and just, go, yeah, everything's going to go back to normal now.
Yeah, but I like I prefer the other way without that sequence in because...
Sure.
I always felt like at the end of this Friday, Craig had kind of become a man now. He didn't need his best friend. He didn't need his family. He could stand on his own 2 feet and support himself. He didn't need this job, whatever it was. We do have the final sequence with Smokey, which... it's iconic in a number of ways. Smokey's on the phone to Big Worm and says, like, hey, man, I've got your money. Don't bother sending your boys to me. I'm still a badass. I'm going to rehab. And he hangs up. And then Chris Tucker looks at the camera and says, and I was lying. You know this, man. And he smokes the joint. And he never returns in any of the other movies.
Well, that's right. Yeah, I mean, this one came out in 1995. And then Next Friday came out in 2000, so 5 years later.
Yeah.
And then you had Friday After Next in 2002. And Chris Tucker never returned.
No.
And it's only been over like the last few years we kind of found out some reasons why. The reason that gets put out there the most is the fact that he wasn't paid. Now, apparently everyone except Ice Cube was supposed to have been paid around $5,000 for the 20-odd days that the shooting took place.
Yeah.
And because this is Ice Cube's script, Ice Cube starring, Ice Cube producing, it's his. But a lot of the other actors said that they were paid. Chris Tucker said he wasn't paid.
Yeah.
Or he wasn't paid enough. But the thing is, like, he wasn't as massive as a celebrity as what this film then made him.
Yeah, Ice Cube was the big star at this
Yes,
point.
absolutely. So Chris Tucker's career had really just started. But this is the film that when it went out there had Hollywood come calling for him.
Yeah.
So he had lots of other opportunities and already done a lot of other work between the 2 Friday movies. So that when they called him back to do another Friday, he was just like, I don't want to do this stoner shtick anymore. I want to deviate and show range and other stuff.
Yeah. Which he can do, which is an actor.
So it was a mixture of pay. It was a mixture of had better offers and wanted to expand his career. Although they are still looking at doing a final Friday.
There has been reports. I mean, after the sequel was more of a success, I would say, than the original. The original was more of a cult classic.
I think largely people still prefer the original.
Oh, definitely. You definitely prefer the original. But when the sequel came out, without knowing that Smokey wasn't going to be in it, that was a big thing that drew everybody to watch the movie. But instead we got Mike Epps, which was all right. Friday After Next is a not bad Christmas movie, but the budget has completely plummeted out of the movie. And so the talks have always been in the pipeline about making a 4th and having all the characters come back. But as we just discussed, like, can you do the same jokes? Should you change it up?
Well, I mean, now that Chris Tucker's coming back for the 4th one, he said he will.
Oh, wow.
But he said that the script needs to be completely changed because he said, I found God now.
Yeah, so he wouldn't be able to
no
play...
stoner jokes, no sex jokes.
And
he wants it to be clean. And so it's just like, he's coming back for it, but he's not. He said, I'm not playing the Smokey that was because, like, that was like 20 or 30 years ago.
Now, that's the question.
My character has changed. So have I.
See, now that's always the question I've asked is how can you make a franchise on this movie? To me, the movie is about a guy's single day on a neighborhood and the interactions he has. To everybody else, it seems like the movie is a franchise about a stoner series of events that happens, which I'm like, that makes it incredibly difficult to try to keep
I think
going.
the films are successful because all the characters were so likable that you just wanted to spend more time in that universe.
But the jokes are repetitive, especially like in these sequels. The jokes do carry on to a point where you go, it was better in the first one.
Sure. Well, Ian, what were your favourite parts of the first one?
I absolutely love this movie. I mean, I will admit I did like some of the extended sequences, like when Felicia comes up to the house and is asking about the microwave, but she wants to borrow the microwave to cook a chicken, but she doesn't want to just bring the chicken to them. She wants to borrow the whole thing, and that plays off again when she's wanting to borrow the car later on, and she wants to borrow the VCR. You always had that one neighbor in your neighborhood who just needed to borrow everything and never returned it. The sequences where Smokey is, obviously blazing. That's always fun to do. I like the store jokes. Like I suppose I like a lot of the movie, but the jokes are very specific. Like the store jokes when he's walking in and the car keeps backfiring and I think it's a drive-by.
Yeah.
You know, or like you said, with the sequences with Debo, whenever Debo is there, he's scary, he's menacing. That bit where he rips off Red's necklace and then Red runs to his car and his like arms are flame. Yeah, I love the whole movie.
Sure, yeah. I mean, it's a comedy film, and the film had me laughing in the opening montage when it cuts to Craig's parents and the dad's in the bed, and he's ordering food,
Extra hot sauce.
yeah, on all the fries you can give me. I was just like, there was the wife's just like tries to wake him. So yeah, like the film is funny, and it still is funny. Of course, like we said earlier, the film is a bit of a meme factory.
Yeah.
You know, there were so many iconic jokes and lines of dialogue and sequences that it remains highly memorable. So Ian, do you recommend Friday?
I do, but at the same time, like I said, I was watching this for like the bazillionth time I've watched it, and I was still finding it funny, but I was also questioning the jokes, like for today's standards. So if you've never watched the movie before and you're just thinking about throwing it on, you know, be aware that there's a lot of jokes and sequences and stuff in there that you might not think is funny now. You have to kind of be in a 1995 mindset. You know, this movie is great, I would always say, for when you're having a lazy Friday and you're just like, I don't know what to do. I've got no plans for the whole day. I'm just going to sit. Watch it then, you know, and just kick back, kick your shoes off and just, yeah.
Yeah, I'm recommending Friday. And I think it holds up really well. And I enjoyed revisiting this one after not seeing it for nearly 20 years.
Wow.
If you like stoner comedy, then this is a must-watch. You know, and it's from the 90s, so there's bound to be some content that you know will upset people today. But on the whole, it does seem mostly tame.
Yeah.
If you also like Clerks and The Big Lebowski, I'd recommend Friday. It has larger-than-life characters, star-making performance from Chris Tucker, the memorable dad, John Witherspoon, and Ice Cube nailed it with a great script and director who knew when to let the cast improv to get the best laughs. Not all the jokes land, sure, but you stick around because you enjoy the company of these characters and want to see what antics they get caught up in next. The film has great energy, a good pace, very simple narrative structure, cartoony characters, and a satisfying conclusion. It was a success on its release. It helped define a genre of film and become a classic. So, I'm gonna get you high today, 'cause it's Friday, and you ain't got no job, and you ain't got shit to do.
Yeah.
Thanks for watching Off the Shelf Reviews.
Trying to see another day. Well, trying to find a
You know it ain't no.
I was just bullshitting. And you know this, man.